So what's the matter today? That's not fair. I haven't even been able to get on live on my YouTube page. It's just rolling and rolling and rolling. Okay, so I'm back. I guess I have to start all over again. I hope who's online still? Who's online? Let me pin a comment. Dear Nigerian parent, stop doing this. Okay, who's online? Oh my, no, this internet cannot do this today. That is so unfair. I have two devices to find internet. I don't know why this would happen. Okay. All right. So, Nigerian parents, this is for you. If you're a Nigerian parent living in Nigeria, especially you. Parents, Nigerian parents who live outside have a lot of cultural undertones that affect them, right? So they're doing a bit better. But this is the maiden of a series that is going to focus on things that Nigerian parents do, things that parents in Nigeria do that impact their children negatively. And meanwhile, they think that these things are helping them win, are helping them parent a super duper child, right? So these are the things we're going to look at in this evening, and every week we're going to look at 2 topics. This February, I've chosen 10 topics, 10 things that we're going to talk about that Nigerian parents do that you want to stop. If your interest is parenting a child that is alpha, A-OK, a parent that is wholesome, I beg your pardon, a child that is A-OK, a child that is wholesome, a child that is emotionally, mentally, and psychologically balanced, who is able to take on life's challenges and not crumble, a child who has a voice, who is able to stand for himself, speak up for himself and for people that he cares about or she cares about, a child who is top notch, who is excellent in different spheres of his or her life. These things are things you have to stop doing as a parent, right? This is what this is focused on, which is what this series is focused on. This is the first of it all, right? This is the first of it all, and I will tell you how I came about this. This isn't a thing. So yes, I have a Children Nurturer series which was birthed in 2020 during the lockdown, which where I talk about different parenting tips and nuggets, things that would help you make your parenting easier, and saner. So I started this series in 2020, continued it until 2021 or 2022, and then we had to put it to rest for a bit. So yes, I've had that, but that was just parenting across board, anywhere you find yourself as a parent. But this one is dedicated solely to Nigerian parents, and here is the reason. There's an influx of information. There is a deluge of information everywhere you look. There are things that you're told, do it this way, do it that way, it's going to be better like this, it's going to be better like that, and the problem with this is, with all the information that we have flooding us as parents, it's important for us to know how to sieve through these information and know what is best applicable to the kind of children that, one, we want to raise. most importantly, the kind of children that we want to raise, and then secondly, the kind of children that are being raised in the culture that we find ourselves. Now, there are some of the things that our parents did while raising us that are absolutely inapplicable today. Why are they inapplicable? Because what obtained in those days, the things that we were surrounded by as children growing, some of them don't even exist. Some of them are aggravated. Some of them have been evolutionized, and there is need for the parenting patterns, the parenting systems, the parenting tactics to be enhanced to meet what we find ourselves, the trends in which we find ourselves today. Okay, so that's number one. And then secondly, it's important for you to know that every child, if you have 5 children, every child is different. Every child is different. There are no 2 children that are the same. How you would raise your first child is different from how you would raise your second child. It's different from how you would raise your third child. If you make the mistake of trying to raise your child your children the same way, that you would win some and you would lose some. Why is that? Because what applies to one child will not apply to the other child. The traits, the talents, the mannerisms, or not even mannerisms, the gifts, the persona that each child comes with would differ. So I'm trying to give this background so that I can buy time to have people on this live. Well, I won't wait anymore. So how did I come about this topic, this series? How did I decide on this series today? This morning, I had to have a heart-to-heart conversation with a parent who's parenting a preteen, a child who's just over 10, right? And this is a child I teach. A child I teach in one of the lessons I take for preteens and teenagers. And so this child, I haven't encountered this child several times in 2023. Towards it, 2022, 2023, by the end of 2023, I noticed a few changes in the way the child learned. So she's a very intelligent child, not brilliant. Brilliant is you being able to, in Nigerian parlance, know book. If you're brilliant, you know book. When they teach you understand, then you can read and you can go and give them the answers to the things you have been taught. You understand. Academically, you are good, so you're brilliant. But when you are intelligent, it means that you're not only great academically, you are also great in other spheres of life. You can hold an intelligent conversation. You would understand when a lot of things across a lot of spheres. So you're not just coming tops in class. In other aspects of life, you come tops too. To make sure that children are not just great in only academics, in schools make the effort to set things like quantitative, verbal aptitude, reasoning, quantitative, and all such things, just to make you think outside of the regular box of academics, right? So if you are brilliant, just brilliant, any child who is intelligent would be way ahead of you. So this child I'm speaking about, whom I have known and taught here now and again and encountered since 2022, is a very intelligent child. Tops. You can hold a great conversation with her. Her critical reasoning is okay. She would be do take initiative in a lot of things. She would lead a pack, and all. And I had the privilege of teaching her in some parts of 2023. But towards the end of 2023, I noticed that this child had changed. There was something different about her. Why? I would hold a class and I'll ask her a question, and she would not be confident enough to answer. It could just be the meaning of a word, or maybe the pronunciation of a word. Now, how do you pronounce a word? You sound it letter by letter. So you can start with the first two letters, move on to the next two letters, and then try to move take the four letters at once, right? So I'll ask her to can you pronounce this word for me? Very intelligent, and she'll say, I don't know how to pronounce it. I said, why don't you know how to pronounce it? Can you try? Why don't you just try? I said, I can't try. I was like, why can't you try? And she's like, I don't know. So I noticed that something had happened to her confidence. There was a problem. And then I would ask her to, explain what she understood by a concept. And she would say, I don't know if I'm right. I was like, there's no right or wrong. It's just about how you see it. So why don't you tell me what you think, how you see it? And she'd say, I don't think I want to say it. And so this was a child who has always been outspoken, always eager to say her mind, always eager to participate in different challenges. And there she was, second guessing herself, doubting herself. And I noted this late 2023. It happened in a couple of classes, and I kept saying I was going to speak to her mom, and I forgot. And then I encountered her again recently, and it was simple. I just asked her to, tell me about herself. What's your name? Are you an only child? Do you have siblings? Where do you go to school? What are the things you like? Just such things. And she didn't want to. Her tongue was tied. I was like, what's the matter? Okay, so tell me your name. And she whispered, and I was like, I can't hear you. So I had to have a conversation. Before I had a conversation with her mom, I asked her a few questions, and here is what I discovered. She has a teacher who, every time she answers a question asked, the teacher would say to her, you're wrong. So this was her report to me. She said, she mentioned the teacher's name, and she said, every time I give an answer, she would tell me I'm wrong. I was like, okay, and what else? She told me a few other things, like she's always talking at her, and so I don't know the things. I didn't have, because this was a class, I didn't want to have a private conversation about her problems in front of other children. So I wanted to take it out, and I was given, so I wanted to have a conversation with her beyond the classroom. And so when I was saying I'd like to speak with your mom, she started to she got jittery. She didn't cry, but she got jittery. She was like, oh no, don't have this conversation with my mom. Don't get her involved. I was like, why? What do you think I want to say to your mom? She was like, you want to tell my mom you gave me homework, you gave us homework, and you want us to do it. I said, no, I don't want to tell your mom. It's up to you. You have to do your homework. If you don't, I'm going to have consequences when you come. So it made me really eager to speak with her mother, because I had a name. I wanted to know who the teacher was. Where is it? Is a private teacher? So after school she took lessons with her. But no, what I'm going to talk about today, to ask you to stop doing as a parent, is not to tell your children they're wrong. No. What do I want to ask you to stop doing as a parent? Dear Nigerian parents, see, there's one thing you need to, if there's anything you need to stop this year, you see this 2024, this is the second day in February, right? Yes, second day in February 2024. If there's anything you need to stop doing today, stop beating your children. Stop it. What did I say? Any name you want to give it. Spank, flog, wallop, beat, any name you want to call it. Iradley, welcome. Any name, no, Yumie, any name you want to call it. Stop beating your children. You see parents who have teenagers at home who are still beating them. You see parents who have young adults, young people who are 16, 17, 18, and you're still slapping them, conking them, flogging. Stop it. Stop it. What did I say? Stop beating your children. They are not animals. They are not animals. Guess what? I know a lot of you, before you hiss and go and say, is this what she came to talk about? Beating children? Calm down and give me just 2 minutes of your time. If that's too much, give me 1 minute. And let me tell you something. You see, beating children, it doesn't work. It does not work. What you do when you beat a child is to make the child afraid of the cane and afraid of you who wields the cane. But the child doesn't take anything away. When you beat an animal, animals are flogged because they don't have the intelligence. They don't have a spirit, the spirit that comes, the spiritual core that a human being comes with. They are sheepish, animalists, and you have to put some force, some pain on their body to get them to move. What happens when you stop flogging them? They stop moving. And the next thing, if you had flogged them to come out of the left pathway and move on to the right, when you stop flogging them, in no time, they go back to the left path from the right again. That's what happens when you flog your children. They would only do those things that you're flogging them for because the cane is there. When the cane isn't there, they don't do it. They don't bother. And so, you are not parenting. The only thing you're doing is raising part animals, part human. Why? Because you make them only ready to behave when there is a whip. That's not how a human being is made by the Almighty to be. The Almighty made the human to have a core that takes initiative, that connects to His light, that moves without being moved. That's how the human spirit is created. It takes the initiative. Now, when you start flogging your children, they are only going to wait. But the flogging will come, and then we can. So once it doesn't come, they are not behaving. At that point, when you flog your child, the child learns nothing. The child tells you only that which you want it to say. The child satisfies your ego. Whatever you say, that goes. Once it is gone, they go back. They feel pain. You probably give them, probably inflict pain on them and bodily pain. And guess what else you do? Emotional pain. When you flog children a lot, what you do is you close up that connection of conversation that you should have with your child. You make the child feel worthless, trampled upon, good to be trampled upon. Anybody who is stronger than your child, who can, how would I put it, who can overpower the child, whether it is his peer or someone lower than him, so long as they have more strength to overpower the child physically, they would give in. That's what you're training your child psychologically to become. It means that anybody who can wield a cane and who can wield the hand and come at your child wins, your child will step back irrespective of whether he or she is wrong. You dampen your child's psychological esteem because it feels like the lowest, someone that can be, you can fling anything at any point. I want to ask you a question. If you are here and you're listening to this, I want you to think about moments when you have beaten your child, when you have hit your child, you've slapped the child, you have flogged the child, you have beaten the child, you have whatever you call it. I want you to think of just one moment when you did that. How were you feeling? Angry. If you are not angry, if you are not angry, if you are not overwhelmed, you would never beat your child. Think about it. Have I beaten my child? Of course I have. Can I count how many times? I could if I tried. I could if I tried. Why am I saying this? There are few times when I have beaten my child. Let me tell you of one. He was 9 years, no, he wasn't even 9, he was 8 years old, and he had picked one thing that a lot of children pick at different times of their lives: telling lies. He would lie for the slightest, flimsiest, most insignificant things. It was as bad as he's about to go to sleep, and I'll ask him, did you brush, have you brushed your teeth? And he say, yes, I did, I brushed my teeth. Then I'll go to his bathroom and touch his toothbrush, and I will find out that it is dry. The last time it was used was in the morning, so the water is dried out. Why did he lie? He could have said, no, Mom. Then he would go into the bathroom and go and brush. Did you put your plates in the sink, inside the sink, or on the tabletop in the kitchen? You say, I put it in the sink. But it's on the table. He could have said, I put it on oh my goodness, I put it on the table. No, he lied for the flimsiest. It was almost as if I would ask, did you breathe? And he said, no. I held my breath since yesterday or day before yesterday. It was terrible. Lying leads to one thing. Once you're telling lies and getting away with it, the next thing that happens is you start pilfering, you start stealing, because you can easily cover up that you have pilfered. And so I was desperate. Why was he lying? I wasn't even beating him. So why was he lying? There are different reasons why he could have been lying. It's either there are people who actually do punish him when he says the truth about stuff, which wasn't me at the time. It's either he's sharing stories and ideas with friends around who he tells that who talk about how they are able to do things and they cover it up and they get away with it. They share things that they do and they're excited about their achievements. And he's learning, oh wow, I could try that at home. It's either that I became at a point judgmental, that when I speak, whenever he talked to me, I would say things that sounded like I was shutting him down. I didn't want to hear him out, or I scolded him a lot, or it could be, there's so many things that could have made him to start lying. And I started to wonder, why was this child lying? I had several conversations with him about it. You need to stop. Why do you lie? What are you afraid of? I'm going to beat you. Okay, look, you've told me the truth now. Did I beat you? No. So why you don't lie again? Tomorrow he will lie again. And I got to the night that I beat him as if I was flogging an animal. I was not just upset. I wasn't even angry. I was overwhelmed. I was spent. I had a rough day. This was 3 years ago, right? I had a rough day. I had a rough month. Goodness, I had a rough year. Everything was at a head. It was so I couldn't handle a lot of things that were coming at me. And then I asked him a simple question. It was bedtime. I asked him a simple question. I don't even remember what I asked him. Something about putting clothes away in his wardrobe. And then he lied. And instantly I knew he was lying. I rushed into my room like a wounded animal, and I picked up, I don't have canes in my house because I don't flog. I don't use them. So I picked up, do you know this plastic hand that you buy that you use to scratch your back, right? I picked up one. I had this one really lengthy, and then it had the handle that you're supposed to use alternately as a shoe horn. I picked that plastic hand up. I rushed back into his room like a wounded animal. I was breathing hard. I flogged him. And so I told him, lie down. At that moment, the pictures in my head were pictures of my mother flogging me as a child. My father flogged me only twice while I was at home being raised as a child. Only twice. The first time, I never forgave him. I cried an entire day, no cap. I cried from morning till night and until the next morning, because I was my father's favorite. We were like 5 and 6 with butter, and I felt that before he flogged me, he should have asked me if what he was upset about was valid, if it concerned me. We lost something. I don't want to get into, I'm a storyteller, I don't want to lose my train of thought. But my dad flogged me. That first flogging, he had to beg me for 2 days before I stopped. The second time, I had still learned the same thing I'm talking about my son. I had learned to tell lies, and I had learned to pilfer. What's the difference between me as a child learning to tell lies and pilfer and my son? My son had picked the exact traits at a younger age. He was 7 going on 8. I, on the other hand, picked up these traits from secondary school while in JSS 3. I was 12 going on 13. Now that's the difference between parenting then and parenting now. The things we had to deal with, the things we have to deal with today, and the things our parents had to deal with then are same, but different levels, different aggravations, right? And so back to the story. I will get back to this later. When I was flogging my child that night, the only pictures that were going through my head in flashes, were myself as a child being flogged by my mother. My mother was an international flogger. She was known in the entire school that I went to, my primary school. Everybody knew her. If they tell you Mrs. Nnadi is going to flog you, you die before that death. Otherwise, you will still die. You will die twice. So I had flashes, and how did she do it? We had a sitting room table that was meant for flogging us. But that was a sitting room table, part of the furniture, decoration. But my memories of that table was flogging. Lie down flat. You will lie down flat. They'll bring out the cane that is your size. And my mom will tell you, don't put your hand. If you touch your buttocks, I will start counting from the beginning. Goodness save you, you touch the buttocks. She wants to flog you 20. You touch the buttocks at 19. She will go back and start from 1. So no matter how excruciating that flogging was, you dare not touch. And guess what? That's what I did to my son that night. As I flogged him, I wept, as in I was weeping, real tears. I was weeping. The pain was intense because I knew, is it this small thing this child said now that I'm flogging him for? Or is there something else wrong with me? Your guess is as good as mine. I told him I was going to give him 20 lashes of the cane. Was it 20? Yes. Yes, not 10. 10 was too small. 20 lashes, and I told him he should lie flat on the bed that he was supposed to sleep on that night. Now I'm trying to paint this picture for you so you see how the psychology is, how psychological that experience would have been for him after that. The same bed that he was going to lie down on and go to bed is the bed I flogged him on. I told him to lie down flat and he should not touch his buttocks. I will flog him 20 lashes, and I wanted him to count. And if he touched it, I will start from the beginning. And so with all my might, all my frustration, all my pain, I flogged him and flogged him. He counted like a wild animal. He will count 10, he will count 15, he will come back to 12, he will count 22, he will come back. If it wasn't so painful, it would have been hilarious. But I didn't. I wept after I flogged him that night. Did he stop lying? No. Does he still tell lies up till now? Yes. Is there a problem with the fact that he still tells lies up till now? Not really. Why do I say that? Because you that is watching and listening to me right now, you tell lies. What is the problem with lying? When it becomes habitual, a child should know that the first thing you do is not tell lies. You need to be up and frank and say things as it is, so that you can have people who will take your word as your bond and stand in for you in cases where it counts and believe you every time you say something, because you are a stickler for the truth, and have good relationships with you and love you. These are things, that's conversations that I eventually had to sit down and have with my child. Did I apologize for that flogging? Not that day, not the day after, not that week. But I did apologize, because in the end, he's not an animal. That night that I flogged my child, what he did was tell me that he had put his clothes back into his wardrobe and it was folded. It wasn't folded. He just squeezed the clothes and dunked it into the wardrobe. And this is something I've always told him to avoid. And so I checked and I saw the clothes were dunked. I rushed out like a wounded animal and came at him. Why did I flog him like that? Was it that particular lie? No. It was a pent up. And that was the pin that burst the pus. So I'm asking you again, as a parent, when you flog your child, why do you do it? Is it because of what they have done at that point? Or is it because there is something wrong with your emotions at that time? You're angry, you're sad, you're overwhelmed. If at every moment your child does something that you believe warrants flogging, you are calm at that moment, you're happy, maybe you've just gotten a promotion, you're so excited, you just come home and your child does something, no matter how grievous that thing is, chances are your happiness and your excitement, I beg your pardon, will douse that feeling you have at that moment, that sadness, that anger that would make you hit your child, slap him, or some daddies use their belts, pull out their belts and whip the child. Then some actually go and get a kid, some buy. Ask yourself this question every single time you want to flog your child. How are you feeling? Why is the reason? Why do you want to flog the child? Is it for that particular thing? That thing that child is doing. Why is the child doing it? Do you know that some of the things that we do, as some of the things that our children do, for instance, tell lies, that we are the reason why they lie? Some of the things that we do not like about that our children do, that make us want to punish them, sometimes our parenting pattern, our parenting style is the reason why they're doing those things. And sometimes when we flog them, it's like we're not fixing the root cause of the problem. We're just trying to manipulate the effects. When you flog a child becomes afraid of the whip and the wielder of the whip, but the child learns nothing. Fear forecloses everything else. Fear forecloses rational and critical thinking, logical thinking. Fear prevents the person who feels that fear from acting right. It short circuits the person's ability to do what is right, what they ought to do. If you have a task you want to achieve, let's say you want to stand in front of a crowd and make a big presentation, and you're afraid, you have this intense stage fright, a fear of a crowd, what happens to you when you stand in front of that crowd? Your heart rate quickens. You start to forget, because you're spending so much time thinking, are they going to like me? Are they going to like what I say? Are they going to understand? Will I do this well? You're spending so much time afraid of judgment, afraid of being vulnerable, afraid of the crowd. You forget the things you are there to tell them in the first instance. Most times, when you do not rise above that fear, which you have to make extra effort to do, you perform below par. Fear does that across board. When you flog a child every time, what the child feels is fear for the whip, the instrument of the violence you put on the child. I know I use the word violence. Yes. If the child becomes afraid of that instrument of the violence meted at him or her, and afraid of the wielder of that instrument, but they learn nothing. It is the reason why when you flog your child, you find that you flog that child over and over and over and over again for the same thing, like a vicious cycle. It never ends. Why do you never hear, go and bring the cane, lie down here, or give me your hand? You flog, mommy please, daddy please. They will cry. Tomorrow they will do the same thing, the same way, same time, same dial. Don't change it. And you flog again. Then tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, the same thing is happening all over again. Why? The child is only afraid of the whip and the wielder of the whip, but they are not learning anything. The brain shuts down. That part of the brain that is emotional shuts down. It doesn't learn anything. Guess what? There is a research, according to researchers, not even one. It is said that the part of the child's brain which takes care of logical and critical thinking, the frontal cortex, does not develop in a child until they become an adult and get to 25 years old. Did you hear? You know what this technically means? That children will always be children, acting on the whim of their emotions. It is only the amygdala that is fully active in a child. That part of the brain that feels excitement and joy and enthusiasm and fear and anger. And guess what? Children, no matter how young they are, feel all the feelings. Rosie Rao, Tweety, welcome. Children feel all of the feelings that you as a parent will feel, whether it is love, whether it is pain, whether it is anger, whether it is frustration, whether it is joy, no matter any feeling that you have felt, whether it is butterflies in your tummy, children feel it also, no matter how small. What's the difference? The intensity and the level of the feeling. That's what's different. And so, the part of the brain in a child that is fully developed and active, not fully developed but very active, is the amygdala, the part of the brain that handles emotions. And until the child is 25 years old, the frontal cortex, which handles critical and logical thinking, is not matured. It's not fully developed. This means that our expectation on children to behave themselves. Don't you see how your brother is? Don't you see how? Can't you do this? You have to. You stop making noise. Behave. All those demands we make on the child to be critical and logical in their reasoning is too much. According to science, should we not make those demands? No, I'm not saying we shouldn't. We should. But we should be kind and considerate in the way we make it. So when, for instance, a child's frontal brain cortex that handles logic and reasoning and critical thinking is not fully developed, and you're expecting a child, you're supposed to know that you should be, you are not supposed to, and because of that you bring out the whip and level down the child. You're being unkind. You're being inconsiderate. It is the reason why children will do a lot of things that you go like, what's wrong with this? They are being children. Some of the times you should ask yourself, this thing that this child is doing, why is this child doing it? Why? What are the reasons behind it? And so you're going to ask. If you ask these questions, it would help you to find some answers that allows you to help your child. I will go back to the reason why I started this series today. The heart conversation I had with this mom today. Now remember that I said that when I had the conversation with when I had that conversation with the child in class to find out why she was becoming second guessing herself, having a low esteem, not wanting to speak or losing her voice, looking as if her intelligence is retarding, someone that has always been sprightly and top in class. She graduated as the best. She was the valedictorian in her primary school, which was just last year, August. She was the best graduating student. She aced many subjects. She was good in too many things. And yet in my class, I was watching her be so much less than herself, not confident, doubting, afraid. And I started asking questions. And then she said this teacher that takes her in after school classes, whenever she gives answers to questions, she will tell her she's wrong. And that wasn't the only thing she said. From the conversation I had with her, it showed that the teacher was always talking at her. You have to, you shouldn't. So my experience with this child in my class is, when I ask a question, she raised up her hand. She's not answering the question that I asked. She's telling me her thoughts on something else related to the question. Meaning, should I entertain what that thing else she's raising is, it would derail us from the class. And she did this several times. The first reaction that a teacher would have, most teachers will have, is, oh, you, Omelogo, sit down and don't raise your hand until I ask you. Or, Omelogo, if I ask you a question, you have to, if it doesn't have anything to do with what I'm asking, the question, your answer doesn't have anything to do, leave it, you raise it later. Or, no, Omelogo, not you. Every time you ask a question and I raise my hand, because I'm always saying something else, you would not pick me to give the answer. So when you do that, two different things will happen. If you're telling me as a child who is always raising up my hand to not speak until I am asked, and then you would never ask me, you frustrate me, you make me become apathetic to class. I don't want to come to class because, what's the point? They'll never ask me any questions anyway. They go inwards and they begin to lose interest in learning. They stop listening. This won't happen at once. It would happen over a period of time. If every time you ask me and I raise up my hand and I'm saying something related to, but not exactly what you're asking, I say, please don't, you raise your voice at me or you talk at me and ask me to sit, what it would do is it would tamper with my confidence. It would tell me that your thoughts are not valid, don't express them. Now, what do I do with her every time she raises her hand? I would ask her and she would tell me. I would say, but my dear, what you're saying, I understand, but can we talk about it after class? Every single time. She's 10, going on 11. She's a child. The fact that she thinks about those things, you know what it shows me? She's a creative, intense creative. She's moving beyond the class to other things, abstract and real. If I shut her down before she gets to 15 years, I would have shut down a huge chunk of the creativity that she came with as a human. And guess what? We as parents and the parents before us spent an infinitesimal amount of time shutting us down. And that is why majority of humans today, majority of Nigerians today would rather not dare. Why? Because so many times that they tried, they were asked to, please go and sit down. Shut up. What's wrong with you? Nigerians are great creatives. We have parents dealing with us, and then we have government dealing on top of the deals that the parents give us. 2 counts. Those people in government are Nigerian parents. So that's intense on all sides. So when I had that conversation with her about what was the matter, I wanted to know why she was beginning to doubt herself and second guess herself and reluctant to contribute and to say raise a voice, put her ideas into what we were learning. I found out that she had a teacher who was constantly telling her that she should shut up and that the thoughts she had were not valid or good enough. The teacher wanted her to shut up and listen. You can't do that to a child. And I told her I will have a conversation with her mom. I want to find out more about this teacher, about the lesson, since the teacher was not in her school. He was an after-school teacher. And she started begging me, please don't involve my mom. Don't involve. I said, why? I know her mom. Her mom is my friend. I said, why? I said, why? She said, you're going to. I said, what do you think I want to talk about with your mom? I said, you're going to tell my mom that you gave us home assignments on this thing, and then you want her to monitor. And I said, no, I've given you assignments. I'm going to ask you to make sure that by next week you will submit your assignments properly done. What I want to talk about with your mom is different. But why don't you want to talk to your mom? Why don't you want to talk to your mom? She said, because she's going to flog me. She flogged me yesterday. I said, why did she flog you yesterday? She said, because she didn't copy her notes. Her notes were incomplete. And then her mom flogged her just the day before. And then she said she's going to flog her. She's going to flog her if I tell the mom. I was like, no, she won't flog you. As for your notes, why would you leave your notes incomplete? You must ensure you complete your notes. She said, there's notes. I said, you have to create time over the weekend to copy your notes, or after school before you have to go home. Make sure you complete your notes. Don't leave them, because if you don't, you know what will happen when you don't complete your notes? You're going to get into trouble with the teacher. Forget your mom. And then you're going to get into trouble with yourself, because during exams, you won't have anything to study. You're no longer in primary school. You're in secondary school. A lot of things are different. You're going to be taught so much more than you used to learn. And then you're going to be expected to do some research. What are you researching on if you don't even have an account, a documentation of what you have learned previously? How do you know where to continue? So you're going to get into trouble. This was a conversation I had with her, and I decided to speak with her mother. When I spoke with her mother, I found out things. So from this indication, this child, who is a very brilliant child, very outspoken, has a strong voice, took initiative, led her group, her classmates, contributed in everything, was cowering in class. She was reluctant to spell simple words because she didn't want to be wrong. She was reluctant to answer questions because she was afraid that I would tell her she's not correct and probably ask her to sit. She was afraid to take part in things that we were doing because she didn't want to make mistakes. And what was that doing? If this is not checked now, she would drop in her grades. She will no longer be the best in her set because she's too afraid to try. And so, this child was suffering intimidation and an erosion of her self-esteem and her self-confidence at the hands of a teacher who she encountered 5 to 6 days every week. And on top of that, when she finished with this teacher and she went home, her home was not safe for her because she was afraid of being brutalized or being flogged or beaten or slapped or scolded by her mother. What did this do to her? She started entering into her own cocoon, trying to survive all by herself. A 10-year-old. Dear Nigerian parent, stop flogging your children. Stop it. You achieve absolutely nothing. Zero, zilch, nothing, nil. You achieve nothing. What you do is what orthodox medicine does. Fixing the surface while the root cause will be there killing you. That's what you're doing as a Nigerian parent who is flogging your child. So you're going to ask, what are you going to do? If you're not flogging them, how will the children listen? Everything will go haywire. No. There is one thing you need to do all the time. You might think that it doesn't work. You might think that it's going to take a lot of your time, but it works like, it's how they say, sure banker. It works. Talk. Conversations. Talk with your children. I think I said this in a live broadcast I had on Facebook earlier in the week. I was talking about public speaking and how to achieve goals and all. And somewhere at the end of the live broadcast, I just started talking about children. And I said, when you have conversations with your children, it fixes a lot of things. What you think is that your children are not listening. When you would know they are listening is when push comes to shove. when they have gone away from that space where you occupy with them, and something related to a thing you have always spoken to them about comes up. That's when you know that all those things that you've been saying to your children work. My mother flogged the living hell, the living daylight out of me and my brothers. Because did we have ears? No, our ears were for decoration. What now? Don't go downstairs. That's when we'll go downstairs. We put rice on fire and we are off. And before you know it, the rice has burnt. Then we will quickly pack the rice, put it inside nylon, go to the deep freezer, hide it under the deep freezer, wash the pot with a iron sponge, then wash fresh rice and put on fire. Remember that rice that time? You know, the rice we had in those days when we grew up were not foreign rice. Which foreign? Nigeria used to make rice that time, so they were local rices. So they were not destoned. You had to boil them, bring them down, pour water, use the sieve, and do that like you're fishing, and fish out the rice and leave the stone under. And so we would wash the rice, we would bring another rice, boil, then what? My mom. But of course, we had the brains of children. We didn't have enough critical, logical reasoning to know that if food burns in this house, the food will smell in this house until tomorrow. We didn't think that far. Children do that. They don't have that logical reasoning, but you do as an adult. And so you should draw the attention to these things. So my mom will come back and say, who burns rice here? We will all like, touch ground, touch. No. Of course she knows. The curtains are smelling. Everywhere is smelling. The rooms, you know how you're cooking in the kitchen, and the aroma, the scent of the food, the aroma leaves the kitchen and goes into the bedrooms and is sent in there. When you burn food, Selamem shows it's the same thing. So the burnt offering will settle its scent in the house. So she's asking, and we're all lying because we have been inside the burnt offering. We didn't know that the smell has invaded the entire neighborhood. And so she would lay everybody down and do the walloping. But guess what? While my mom flogged, my dad flogged my brothers. But he didn't flog me because I was the only child, the only girl, I beg your pardon. My dad didn't flog me. How will you be eating women anyhow? So, but while my mom flogged and my dad flogged more sparingly, they did one thing that was very beneficial to us as children, that helped us form our character. They had conversations, especially my dad. For every time my father or my mother told us, don't do this, they told us why. Or they told us why not. Why don't do this? Why not? Because this and this and this and this would happen. Or this and this and this and this will not happen if you do this. If they say, do this, you must do this, they will tell us why we should. Because if you do this, that will come up as a result. If you don't, this will not happen for you. Life will not do for you. Hey, welcome. What's your first name now? Meaningful ideas. What's your first name? I don't remember. It's nice to have you on this thread, right? This broadcast is specially directed at Nigerian parents, and the topic is what Nigerian Vivek. Yes, Vivek. Welcome. How's your mom and how are your sisters? Good to see you. Happy New Year. So this is a special new series starting today, dedicated to Nigerian parents, and we're talking about things Nigerian parents need to stop doing if we want to raise wholesome children, alpha children. Then there's something we say in Nigeria, better pikin. It means the same thing. So, but you're welcome. Hey, thank you. Yeah, You're welcome. Good. So today, what we're talking about is every reason why Nigerian parents need to stop flogging children. We're flogging a lot. I was flogged. Many of us who are parents today were flogged. And so we're returning the favor. We're maintaining the cycle. But the difference between then and now is the parenting situation and the times when we were raised and the parenting situation today are different. And so what we're achieving with flogging is more dire than what our parents achieved with flogging. So many of us who are parents today will say, look at me, I was flogged, see how I turned out. But we have some internal damages, some trauma that we haven't even healed from, some things that some anger, some resentment trapped inside that unfortunately today we are passing on to our children. So that's why this is the first of the series. I'll have 10 topics for this February alone, and then every other month we take 5 topics of things Nigerian parents must stop doing. So you're welcome, Vivek. And for those who just joined, so I had to explain to Vivek because Vivek is from the abroad people. I hope you understand that, who, most of them don't have this as an issue. Okay, so for every time that my parents told us, my mom or my dad told us to do or not to do a thing, we knew the reasons why or why not. And so, whether or not they were there, we knew why we were doing a thing or why we weren't doing a thing. Let me speak for myself. I have 3 brothers. But for that pattern in the parenting that I received as a child, I am today the children nurturer. What did it do to me? From right after secondary school, I had a very independent mind. Yes, you're from India. Oh, sure. And if you were still in India, living in India, that would happen a whole lot. Yes, I understand. Yes, so what I experienced as a child made me who I am today. Because what I did was I looked at the way my parents raised me. There were lots of things they did good, but there were quite some they didn't do well. I didn't like being flogged as a child, but I loved I loved having conversations with my parents, and I learned a lot from the conversations I had with my father. And my father had a peculiar way of having conversations. Sometimes it was better for you that my father flogged you than had a conversation with you, but he would opt for the conversation. If my father wanted to have a conversation with you over something you have done wrong, it meant that you should sacrifice 1 to 2 or 3 hours of your playtime for that conversation. Because my father was a teacher, a principal of a school, a lawyer, and so he would talk like a chief. He would sit and would tell you, "Oh my Lord God, you see, for every time you tell one lie," he will pause and think. It means that you would need at least 9 other lies. He will pause again to cover just one lie. Do you understand? So you are thinking of your siblings and friends who are out there playing football, sway, hopscotch, whatever you played at that time, even hide and seek, whatever they are playing. But you're sitting down in the living room with my father, having a conversation over something you have done wrong, and he didn't flog you, but he would have flogged you. You would have wished he had flogged you, or you would have felt like someone who had been flogged. And the thing is this: despite your impatience to go out, you had to listen, because he would ask you questions to confirm that you understood and that you understood the implications, the pros and the cons of whatever that thing was. And so for every time, for as many times as possible that he had those kinds of conversations, he would always ask to make sure you learned. And what that did to me, it made me, as a child, wise beyond my age. I understood a lot of things, why I did them, why I didn't, and my father never had to flog. The first time my father flogged me, he flogged me just twice in my life. The first time my father flogged me, it was because we were playing my brothers were playing football downstairs. We lived in a block of flats in our neighborhood. My brothers were playing football. Our football fell into somebody's balcony. And those people have been kind of mean to us. And so we went to their house to ask for our football, and they didn't give it to us. My father bought that football for us. And so they didn't give it to us. And we had asked their sibling, who was about our age, and she wasn't allowed to give us the football. And so one time we were asking the father to buy another. We said, where is that one? And we said it was. So my father was angry. Thinking about this as an adult, I'm analyzing it thus. My father was angry. Now, such a thing happened in this house, and you people did not tell me that these people seized your ball, and you're making me look like a weakling, that somebody left my children's football trapped in their balcony, and I could not do anything. How dare you make me look like a... So my father brought out the whip, flogged the living daylight out of my brothers, and I was there. I didn't play football, and then he just dragged me, gave me 2 strokes of the cane. I wept the entire day until the following day. He had to beg me. I kept saying, I wasn't there, I didn't know. Why did you flog me? Why could I say that? I wasn't saying it out. But for every time somebody asked me to stop crying, I would say why I was crying. My father didn't have to flog me. I don't play football. I didn't play football with my brothers. Why did he flog me? Because he was angry. Did he ask me? My father had to, dramatic. My father had to. My father, you're right, Vivek. My father gave me self-awareness, absolutely. And then my father had to apologize to me. Guess what? I made him apologize for hours and several times. After that, my father never flogged me again. I think I was maybe 7 or 8 at the time. The next time my father flogged me, I was 12 or 13. I was in secondary school, and I had started to tell lies and to steal. And my father was alarmed. So I stole something from the fridge. I took food from the fridge. If only I had said the truth, it wouldn't have been a theft. But I lied about it. And I blamed, guess who I blamed for the theft? The dog. So I said that the dog opened the fridge, brought out the plate, ate the food, and washed the plate. Ate the food, licked up the plate, and left it in the kitchen where I found it. Remember that I said the children don't have that part of the brain that handles critical and logical reasoning and thinking. It's not developed in children. It's not fully mature in children until they are 25. And so they're going to make a lot of mistakes in their logic and critical and their logic and critical reasoning. And so that was me. For me, I had planned the lie. Foolproof. Anybody could see through that, but not a child. So my father was so angry. They had been watching me. I was in boarding school. I had picked up a lot of things. This was one of it. So I was lying. And because I could lie my way out of stuff, I started to steal. And so my father flogged me. They gave me a chance. They kept asking me, say the truth now, having conversations with me and telling me, how would you say this? My father gave me several opportunities to speak the truth. I didn't. He flogged and flogged. I could see the pain as he flogged me, his beloved daughter. He flogged me. Did I stop lying after that flogging? Mm-mm. I reduced it a great deal because I didn't like how pained my father felt. Did he have a conversation with me after that flogging? No, he didn't. Growing up, I had a great parenting from my parents, but there were lapses, such as this point where my father flogged me but failed to come back to have a conversation with me. And so, as I grew up, I decided that I was going to parent better than my parents. My parents did a great job, I knew, but I wanted to do better. I didn't have a friendship with my mom, despite being an only girl. I envied people who had friendships with their mothers. I wanted to be a better mom. Because I didn't have a friendship, why would I have a friendship with my mom if she flogged me and my brothers like we were animals? Mom, if you are listening to this live thread, sorry, but man, that's what it is, right? We didn't have that friendship. I couldn't have developed that friendship. How do you treat somebody like that and expect to be friends and chummy with that person? That's what you're doing when you flog your children. You foreclose connection and bonding. If the children do not pretend the way adults do, they feel all their emotions with their entire being, their entire bodies. And so, if you flog them like animals, they would not feel any respect coming out of you towards them. If they love you, it would be because they are expected to. They will love you, but they would feel too much pain to allow that love to blossom into a beautiful bond between you and your children. And so you will find that when it matters most, when there are things that they are going through, that they are looking for somebody to talk to, you will not be the first option. This is the same thing that happened to this girl, this 10-year-old in my class, who was being talked down on by her teacher, her after-school teacher, who her self-esteem and her self-confidence was being eroded by the manner in which her after-school teacher was teaching her and not even speaking to her, speaking at her. She was beginning to lose a lot of confidence and enthusiasm to participate in things. A very highly intelligent child prior to that. She was going through a trauma emotionally, but she couldn't speak to her mother. Rather, she was afraid because her mother was flogging her over things that her mother felt she wasn't doing right. And so at 10, she was going to lose the friendship of her daughter at 10 because she was by herself inadvertently closing that door. Dear Nigerian parent, stop flogging your child. If there is anything you would do this 2024, promise yourself that you would create time to sit and have conversations with your children. You see, conversations, they are underrated, but they work magic. It may look like they are not listening to you, but when you will find out that they are listening is when they go out there and they need to do things, to live without you. Live, to live their lives without you being there like a helicopter that most parents love to be. That's when you find out that all those conversations you had with them, painting real pictures, showing them the reasons why or the reasons why not things you're asking them to do or not to do are. That's when you find out that those things, because a thing that they hear a lot of times, every time these things go into their subconscious, settles down and forms a firm foundation. Guess what? A human being is 100%. 100% of what a human being does, thinks, says, the emotions that we are triggered by, the expression of our feelings and our emotions, our interaction with people around us, the choices that we make in friendships, in preferences, in likes, everything, 95% of it is influenced by our subconscious minds as human beings. The subconscious mind is that part of the mind where you don't even know, which you don't even feel or know exists, where we tuck away all the things that happen to us, where the impacts that we feel every day in our experiences goes to settle like a sedimentation. What we feel is that these decisions are made by our conscious mind, but our conscious mind is only 5%. The subconscious is 95%, and it influences everything. When you have constant conversations with your children over the pros and cons of everything that you feel and know that they should learn and know, what you do is build up their subconscious mind. Create tools that you chunk up in their subconscious, which would influence the greater part of who they are and what they do. When you flog them, you foreclose this opportunity to arm them with what's important. You create fear of the whip and the wielder of the whip of you for that moment alone. Once you go away from that moment, everything is washed away. Once you come, the fear comes back. Once you go, that's it. How do you say, for those who had fathers who, for every time they heard the horn, the car horn of the dad at the gate, poo, 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 all man will clear. If you're in the sitting room, you put off the television, you arrange, people go and pretend to be studying, some people go and pretend to be washing plates, some people go and pretend to be, you're pretending, you're not doing it. It's what your father wants to see. He wants to believe that he's making an impact, whereas he is not. That's what you're doing as a parent when you flog your children. High on the heels, quick on the heels of flogging is one more thing. You know, when you shout at your children all the time, you're talking at them, you shut up because I said so. It's no longer a reason for anything because you said so, because mommy said so, because daddy said so. You shut up and you listen. No, that's rude. They're human too. Why are you asking them to shut up? Do you like it when people ask you to shut up and listen? When your bosses tell you to do that, when your older siblings or your superiors ask you to do you like it? No, you don't. What makes you think that a child will like it when they are spoken to like that? They won't. Children are human too. Children feel all the feelings and all the emotions that we feel too. And so, you be mindful. Talk to them with respect. Talk to them with consideration. Talk to your peers, your partners, your colleagues. Talk to them, those people around you who are other adults, with respect and consideration. And let your children watch. When they watch, they will learn. And then when you talk to them with respect too. So don't stop. Stop flogging your children. And stop shouting down and talking at your children. Remember that when you respect them, you teach them respect. Okay? So this is all that I have to say today. That's the first item in the series of Dear Nigerian Parents. This is new. This series is new. I just thought about it today, this morning. There's so many things we're doing as Nigerians when we parent. We learn a lot of things from around the world, but we pick and choose the things we want to learn. You see this thing? Now, in the Western world, they don't flog. They don't like to flog children, right? Not that they don't like. It is verboten. It is forbidden to flog children, right? One thing that most times in the Western world is lacking to go with this rule is this. There is a lot of liberty given to most of the children, and there is a gap, a big gap in also guiding the children to learn consideration and respect of, for instance, as we have in Africa, of their elders. That respect that also exists in Asia, that respect that you give to adults, that is due to an adult by virtue of having been there, having experienced these experiences that you're coming to. We are taught in these parts of the world that respect that is vital, that respect that teaches us kind consideration. What we find in the Western world is the liberty that is given to children by that elimination of flogging forecloses that. And so you find a lot of African parents and Asian parents who still want to secretly flog because they want to ensure that those things are instilled. There is need for that to be constantly put before us. It's not every parent in the western parts of the world that have their children lacking respect and kindness and consideration. What are they doing? They're having consideration. They're having conversations. Everybody is involved. Everybody is carried along. Everybody is respected. You go in homes where these things are there, respect, kind consideration, and conversations. Those children, even while raised in the West, are alpha, wholesome children. And so when Nigerians hear that they don't flog, are you serious? So that's the children will start misbehaving. No. When you eliminate flogging, you fill the space. You must feel it. And what do you fill it with? You fill it with your time for conversations, healthy, considerate conversations with your children. Constant for every single thing. Have conversations. You will not go wrong. 2024, it's a new year, new second month of the year. Eliminate flogging. Stop it. You will not achieve anything with it. Everything you achieve with flogging is negative. There is no positive. What looks like it's positive is just for those moments when you wield the cane. Once the cane is away, even if it's for 1 minute, everything goes back to status quo. Stop it, dear Nigerian parent. It's been amazing having this conversation with you. If you have any questions you'd like to ask me, do send me a message. That would be amazing. I would love to answer your questions. I was supposed to have this broadcast live on YouTube. My very first live broadcast on YouTube. I have a lot of videos on YouTube, but these videos are pre-recorded or live broadcasts on other channels, on other platforms, which I upload to YouTube. But today I wanted to do a live broadcast on YouTube and have a lot more people, join this conversation. But I don't know what's wrong with my internet, or maybe I don't know what I'm supposed to do on YouTube. I've never tried. And so it's just been here rolling and rolling. I never got connected. So I'm going to find out what went wrong. And I'm going to have this. This should be This used to be, I used to have a children nurturer series which we started in 2020 during the lockdown, and it continued until 2021 or 2022 or something, and I put it to rest for some reasons, back end reasons. But I don't have to do extraordinary productions to have this series back. So this is like the Dear Nigerian Parent, the Children Nurturer series version of Dear Nigerian Parents, and we're going to do this. Today is Friday. We would have another episode on Sunday talking about one thing parents should stop doing. See you on Sunday. We have 10 topics for February alone, so it means that we're going to take 2 topics every week for February, and then after February we'll take 1 topic every 5 topics every month to talk about things that Nigerian parents need to stop doing. Nigerians are amazing people. We're raising amazing children, but we can do things better. There's a lot of evil going on around us. Children are being involved in a lot of vices. The reason why our children are turning to vices is because of the lack of connection they feel at home. Let's change it. Our children are wonderful. I don't know the kind of blood that runs through our veins as Nigerians. We're intensely creative. We are survivors. We're go-getters. But what are we doing to the emotional and mental and psychological foundation of our children? We're messing them up. We need to change these things, and we can as Nigerian parents, and we should. Dear Nigerian parents, this is number 1. Stop flogging your children. It doesn't achieve anything. Nothing. I have flogged. I have. A bit not too long ago. Yeah, right? But I didn't achieve anything. I had to recalibrate. You can too. Alright? Do have yourself an amazing evening. We've been here for an hour, 30 minutes. I hope this has been quite helpful. Thank you. Zesty! Destiny, thank you. Thank you for joining. Treasure for Hero. Oh, thank you. I hope this has been helpful. Yeah. Yes, you tried joining on YouTube. My YouTube wouldn't connect. I don't know why. It's the same. I have 2 different networks that I was trying to use to log on, but the YouTube is here. Let me flip the camera so that you can see the YouTube is just here. It's been rolling and rolling all through the evening. I don't know what's wrong. It's the same connectivity, right? I have 2 different options I've tried, but it just wouldn't connect. So pardon me, this is the first time I ever tried to do a live broadcast on YouTube. I've never done it. I've only uploaded videos like this. Okay, so when I'm done with this, I'm going to download it and then upload it on YouTube, for this. But I wanted to do it simultaneously so that other people who don't have Instagram and don't have Facebook, I have some of them in a parenting group, a parenting community that I have on WhatsApp. By the way, you can join that parenting community. I'm going to drop the link. Where will I? No, the link is on my bio. So you can click on the link and join. There we learn a lot of things about parenting, wholesome parenting. So I have some parents there who, it's called the bucket filling arena. The idea is every human being is like a bucket which is filled up with things. And the question is, what is your bucket filled with? What do you want to fill your children's buckets with? Irrespective of what your bucket is filled with, you can decide. Oh, China, yay! You can decide what to fill your children's bucket with by being an intentional parent. So I have some parents in that group that do not do not have Instagram or Facebook accounts. And so for them, I try to create a YouTube broadcast, right? And so I wanted to do a live on YouTube today, but it's not connected. I don't know why. I'm going to have some technical people assist me. I'm not a technical person. I'm just a children nurturer and the media person, right? So I want to have them fix that so that by Sunday or by next broadcast, we can have a YouTube live. But thank you for joining. Try and test prayer. I tried. It was the trial. I was beginning to get desperate, and I told myself, calm down. If YouTube is not going on, then you can go on Instagram. So don't worry. So I went on Instagram. So, but I'm going to try. I'm going to know what's happened to that. I have it fixed. Okay. Thank you so much for joining, Emeka. I see the vex for you. Go away, Joe. Thank you for joining. Hey, Vivek. Thank you for joining. I hope that this was good for you joining. My love to your mom, Zesty. Chineye, thank you for joining. I saw my tweenie earlier, Rao. I hope she was able to still join. William. Oh, thank you for joining. I like that. It's what's that? What's that name? Buffalo's collection. Aren't you amazing? Thank you. I'm gonna come and be dressed up by you very soon. Do my personal person. Hey Radley, my boo. Thank you for joining. I'm really glad that you all could join this broadcast, and I hope that as a Nigerian parent, this is one thing you can let go. Trust me. Please, let me pull my ear for you. If you have a teenager in your home or a young adult that you're hitting still, stop it. Stop it. You're foreclosing any manner of friendship between you and your teenager. And very soon, when you grow older, you will complain that they don't come close. They don't ask of you. That they just if the Almighty will bless them, they will have money. You will start complaining that they are throwing money at you. Some of you parents here might also be just giving your parents money. They say they need to send them money, but you don't visit, you don't call, you don't gist with them. You didn't see me on the phone with my mom. We can do 3 hours. Even while my dad was alive, we would talk for hours. Do you do that with your parents? Would your children do that with you? The connection that would ensure that happens in the future is made now while they're young. Make it. Please stop flogging them. Talk with them. Talk to them. Have conversations. Share ideas. Rub minds. And be kinder, okay? When you're feeling an overwhelm, take a step back and breathe. When you're overwhelmed by a lot of things, chances are you will take out your overwhelm, you will transfer the aggression of your overwhelm on the most vulnerable people around you. Your children usually will take the butt of it all. That's not nice. That's not nice. If your spouse, if you're a woman, for instance, and your husband goes through a lot of pressure at work from his boss, and every time he comes home, he's so angry, he's lashing out and talking at you, would you like it? Or you now say something simple like, honey, I think we should just take a break this weekend and maybe hang out or something. Hey, but what do you mean hang out? Which money are we going to use and do that? You haven't said anything wrong. You're just thinking. It's just a conversation that both of you should have. But the man is angry and frustrated from things that have happened at work. And because he feels like he can overpower, quote unquote, he lashes at you. He transfers aggression at you. If you ask him, he will say, did you not realize that this is not a good time to have that conversation? When is the good time to have that conversation? That's what we're doing to our children. The exact things that we don't want from people is what we're doing to our children. The little things that they do, we blow them up, we get angry, we flog, we hit, we everything. Let's stop. Okay? I love you, but I gotta go. My name is Omelo Gonadi, and I am the children nurturer. Yeah. You take care and have yourself an amazing evening. Thank you so much for joining. And you can share this. You can share this with your friends who are parents so that they can learn a thing or two from this. Because we need as many Nigerian parents as possible to stop this. We do. We want to raise amazing children. Alright, adios and bye for now. See you on the next episode of Dear Nigerian Parent. Ciao. Oh, YouTube.